He's got lots of archives. He hasn't been a straight journey. I will let him expand on that. And a few years ago, he asked me, after he got married, if I would help him. So I have been doing that. So tonight, we've got a Welshman who lives in Frankfurt, who's married to a German. And David is going to speak to us for 45 minutes of experience, strength, and hope. Over to you, David.
Thank you, Nicholas. David, I'm an addict and privileged to be a member of the Worldwide Fellowship of Cocaine Anonymous. What a crew. I mean, before we started, I was offline doing what we do. I invited God to help me know the truth and give me the strength to have a good bash at telling you the truth. It still doesn't come naturally. So God's in the room, I hope. I know, I just got to hear him. But also, my wife, my sponsor, 6 boys that I row a lifeboat with on a regular occurrence, one of my oldest, dearest friends from Somerset. It's like, it's rather special. So, I'm preaching to the converted. My job's easy. I don't know that there's anybody struggling or fresh about. And if you are, really, I'm talking to you, not the people I've just mentioned, although I never know. I sat in the rooms for a long time, suffering, looking. I had a tie on, so you couldn't see it. He was good at hiding. I was very good at dishonesty. So 2 things really. A, it's really good for me to be of service. Thank you. I've learned not to say no to CA because service is what keeps me here, what keeps me grounded. And B, if one person tonight hears one word, one sentence, one experience that helps them get out of the mud, that's my job. That's my job done. What a gift. We have the gift of being able to reach into others' lives and change things with God's help. Yeah, cool, huh? Sometimes I introduce myself as recovered, and I didn't tonight. I looked around the room and thought, just keep stunned, David. Tell them you're an addict, and that will do. But there are days, depending on how early it is, I can happily introduce myself as a recovered addict. I don't have that insanity anymore. I've recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. And but today it's quite late, and I've been on Facebook for an hour. I've picked up a couple of resentments. I've been through some self-pity. I've been through a bit of, I wish it were different. So, I don't feel so recovered. I've addressed all of those. I've got a program that allows me to address all of those. But, I didn't introduce myself as recovered, but I believe that's possible. Not cured, recovered. Still an addict. I wake up in the morning, first thing, thinking like an addict. Some would say at 6 in the morning, I look like an addict. But hey, I don't spend too long in the shaving mirror. I'm gonna give myself a bit of a cop out. I don't breathe so good, and I will pause now and then to get my breath. And somebody said something quite beautiful a couple of years ago, which is you need to become a man of measured words. I like that. Of a man of measured words. Think about what I'm saying. What I'm saying is important. what I'm saying, costs me energy. You too. You're listening. Thank you. So I will pace myself. The danger is when I pause to think, my head kicks in. So it's a two-edged sword, because my default setting is I want you to like me. I'm going to maximize the good bits, minimize the bad bits, and lie through my teeth, my head. So, I've learned in CA to pray first, and hopefully what comes out is, pretty close to the truth. That was always my problem, knowing the truth. Didn't know the truth, didn't know what an addict was, didn't know who I was, didn't know that drugs wouldn't fix it. I didn't know a lot, really. So I'll talk about that in a general way. You wouldn't say, you see people, young people, and you point at them and you say, I'm going to see them in the rooms in 10 years. You wouldn't point at me when I was a kid and say, he's a junkie, he's going to be a junkie, he's going to be trouble, he's going to be an alcoholic. You wouldn't say that. I come from a place of some privilege. I was loved. My father was a priest, a cleric, academic. My mother was a nurse. They're both long gone. Bless them. My brother's not an addict. No abuse, no neglect. My father was distanced, and we weren't wealthy, but I was fortunate. I won a scholarship to a choir school. I was a choir boy. I dressed up in a ruffle that was here. I hid behind this blue and white thing. I loved it. I sang in cathedrals and played in water meadows with bows and arrows. This is not the Goebbels council estate. It's not. I come from a place of privilege, and I can't tell you what it was about drugs that hit the spot that needed fixing, because I didn't know there was anything wrong. I did feel a bit digital sometimes. My parents spoke Welsh, and we lived in England, which was tricky. I was fat, which I was supremely self-conscious of, even at the age of 7 or 8. I was self-conscious. Lots of kids are, nothing abnormal there. So, but I can't really say that I felt, supremely different. I was a fantasist. I remember that from early on. I would read science fiction novels, get lost in Dan Dare. I was Tintin. Always dreamt I could fly like Peter Pan. My first pantomime set me off on this road of being obsessed with flying. And anyway, that's all, neither here nor there. Safe to say, very good friends of mine used to get the NME, which was a music paper back in the day. I don't think it still exists. And there was an advert, full-page advert for a concert. This is 1970. And full-page advert for a concert on the Isle of Wight. And Kipper Smith, Tony Townsend, they're not junkies, I can use their last names, and Donald decided we were going to go to the Isle of Wight. So there I am, this little fat white thing, never even seen a drug, never tried a drink. There was no drink in the house. My father was a teetotaler. Got to the Isle of Wight in 1970 on the train with bicycles, took our bicycles, and Wonderloaf. I remember I had my complete food for 3 days was a pack of sliced bread. That was it. And I think I had a few quid. And within the space of 3 days, I had tried every major drug known to man. this was the Isle of Wight Festival with Jimi Hendrix and The Doors, Joni Mitchell, The Who. People were giving away acid. I was buying bags of pills for 10 shillings, 50p for a bag of whatever. You were lucky if they were uppers. They were usually the opposite. But within one weekend, it was like, oh, I've arrived. Bill says it, I've arrived. I could breathe. I was on fire. I wasn't fat. I could talk to girls. This was just a spiritual awakening, truly a spiritual awakening. And yeah, everybody was doing it. There was a field it was bigger than Woodstock. There were 300,000 people in a field all doing the same thing. And I certainly didn't want to be different. And it was fantastic. And I can't really honestly tell you that I remember the whole weekend clearly. I do remember a few things, but got home tired and dirty 3 days later after losing everything, train tickets, bicycles. It was just mad, gloriously mad. And yeah, got into trouble, explained it away, went back to school, and knew what my path was in life. I just knew. I can't tell you if I crossed a line. This was magical. This was magical. This cocktail was magical. There was no one drug. There was no, I'm gonna smoke puff for the rest of my days. I'm gonna drink for the rest of my day. None of that. It was just a magical cocktail, that moment. And I chased and chased and chased that. And I got to tell you, I never found it. Never found it again. I've come close at a couple of conventions to that same elation, but never that complete cocktail of chemicals. And what happened was, I am one of us. I am like you. I lose control. I now know I'm ill. I have a twofold illness. I believe it to be twofold. That was my guidance. That was what it said in the book. I have this absolute allergy. Whatever I put into my system, can't tell you if I'm going to take it again, not take it again, when I'm going to stop, if I'm going to stop. I can't tell you. Whatever it is, changes my mood. It can be cough medicine. It can be morphine. It can be, shit, I've relapsed in Holland and Barrett. One chamomile tea bag doesn't do it for me. I'm a 3 chamomile tea bag man. And physically, I can't take drugs of any description. Alcohol, I avoid alcohol in food when I can. Yeah, because I don't know. That allergy is there. Interestingly, though, and I'll talk about this later, some way down the line, I've taken my drugs of choice under supervision in hospital and as a result of ill health and been fine. But I believe I still have the allergy. So don't forget that. And that's cool. If it was just an allergy, I'd be okay. I'd just stop, right? I'd just stop. But the tricky thing about this illness, the tricky part of step one, and this is my big problem, is the second part. And that is, I'm obsessed with using normally. I just want to use normally. I'd love to be able, I've got the fire lit, cup of coffee. Wouldn't a spliff be great? That's, my head still goes there. And I know that to be a lie today, but it's there. That obsession that I can use like other people is there. And believe you me, it took some smashing to get that out of my system. The second half of step one, that unmanageability was deeply rooted. and I do have a problem hearing. Even after I came to CA, I still, second half of step one ended up biting me. And really, they say, it says we talk in a general way what it used to be like. I mean, it just got worse. That was it. It got messy. There was a lot of alcohol involved. Alcohol and me are messy. Illegal drugs are illegal. So there were consequences with the law. Step one took me to places where I morally didn't want to go. I hurt a lot of people. I was lying and stealing pretty much from day one. I had my first detox, age 20, 21. So it was a mess from the start. It was chaos. This was the late 60s, 70s. Drugs were so cheap. You could kill yourself with the paper round money. It was crazy. And I was the guy. People would buy a bag of pills and say, "What's this? We don't know." Well, give them to DJ. He'll try them, and if he dies, we won't buy it. If he falls down, we might buy it, and if he goes running off into the sunset with no clothes on, we'll have more. And I was that man. I was crazy. I didn't know what I was doing. I have this mad need for more of this cocktail. Maybe I can find what I was looking for. Maybe I can recreate the Isle of Wight in my life, and I couldn't. It's just a mess. And it went downhill. It got messy. It got scary at times. There were good points too. This is another sort of unmanageable aspect of my life, and that is I get great opportunities. Somebody offers me something wonderful, I take it, and I mess it up. I have this spiritual ability to defeat myself in anything positive, and that, of course, underpins step one. It underpins the twofold illness. Really, that's what I'm concentrating on these days, and that's that spiritual malady, that self-defeating, self-hating, self-centered behavior, beliefs that have got me all through my life. They've got me. It's no wonder I was looking for a cocktail to take that away. It's horrible, horrible. So I got great opportunities, couldn't capitalize on them. I married someone, and my life, seemingly got a bit better for a while. And I got a job, and it was okay for a bit. Had children. I stayed sober when my first son was born. I stayed sober for 8 months. Nothing passed my lips. Not a drink, not a spliff, nothing. And I remember that first joint after Hugh was about, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, something like that. It's, less than a year. And I promised myself I wouldn't use. Fathers do not get into the states you do. And I remember having a spliff, thinking, oh yeah, maybe. And then 3 days later, I'm supposed to be caring for him while my wife's at work. And I don't even know what room he's in. I'm out of it. I'm stoned. And my baby son, my toddler, is exploring the building site. We were rebuilding a house, and he used to disappear, and I wouldn't know where he was. So dangerous. Later on, I would go score in charge of my children. I had a double buggy, and I would park it in the playground and race over to the dealer, leaving them in the playground. We ran out the house one night to the off license. I remember this so clearly. They were a bit older, and my wife was a night sister, And I was only gone 5 minutes, ran to the off license, ran back. I hid my bottle in the front garden. Get that? I don't know why. Hid my bottle in the front garden, went into the house, and there's my son sat on the bottom step. And he'd had a nightmare, and he'd woken up, and he said, "Where were you, Daddy?" Can't answer them. Can't say, "Oh, I was just getting a drink, darling." Can't say that. You know, I have moments of clarity throughout my addiction. You know, don't tell me about rock bottoms. I collect them. I am great at rock bottoms. I've had hundreds of rock bottoms. Moments like that, when I look at myself and I think, geez, fathers don't act like that. Fathers don't do that. And you know what I did was I put him to bed, settled him, and went and got my whiskey from the front garden. And well, you know, it's the best solute for guilt. And it's gone briefly until the next time, or it wears off or whatever. So don't tell me about rock bottoms. I've had many, many, many opportunities like that of asking for help, of looking for a different way. But the second half of step one, I was obsessed with finding the answer, with finding the cocktail my way. And madness. Detoxes, you know, just prolonged it, saved my life for a little while. Some detoxes certainly saved my life. But I came out of there not knowing any different. I came out of there usually with a prescription for some sort of sedative, some sort of alcohol in pill form. And I have to say, it got crazier, got crazier. I obviously became divorced, legally separated, wasn't allowed to see my children unless I was clean and sober, which I couldn't guarantee. There were times I just couldn't go to the doctor for the letter which said this guy is sober. Couldn't do it. And so I said goodbye to my kids, really. And then I got opportunities, and things would be okay for a little while. And I'd paint over the rust. I'd present myself. I'd earn some money. I'd try and make things right. But underneath it is that malady that says, this isn't enough. This isn't good enough. 6 months abstinence, and I just mess it all up again. And then I take that first drink, pill, hit, whatever. And so the spiral goes on. Amazing opportunities. I run a business in Japan. I had a warehouse in Tokyo and an office in Kyoto, and I'm earning more money than I've ever seen. And then 2 weeks later, I'm in detox in Wales. I don't know how I got there. I'm bankrupt, and I've got ugly-looking Japanese guys looking for me because I owe them a lot of money. I don't know how that shit happens. So I reckon it's addiction. I had a big debt to some Chinese waiters in Gerrard Street. I used to buy morphine in Gerrard Street. Dodgy. Don't do it, boys. There's top floor staff dining rooms in Gerrard Street where they play mahjong and backgammon. And I had a big debt to one of these guys. And I was mad. I mean, just talk about insane. I was mad. I was mad. And rather than running, I went back time after time after time. And I ended up gambling bits of my body. That the bet was that I wouldn't take my little finger. And of course I did. There was a bag of morphine in it, and my debt was cancelled. So, rock bottoms, scary scars, don't do it. What it takes is a moment of clarity where, the light shines in, and somehow you can get connected to this amazing fellowship. And I went through rehab. I bought self-help books. I went to other fellowships. I was clean and crazy in another fellowship for a little while. That was hard work. Yeah, I used to steal self-help books. I had them all. I used to run into the bookshop. Do you remember? Now they're by the till, but years ago they were in the back, right at the back. Melody Beattie and Emmett Fox and the Rhodes Scott Peck, they were all in the back. I used to run in and steal one of these self-help books, come out, read it avidly. Nothing. 2004, I was working as a lecturer in Wales. In the middle of the madness, I managed to go to university, educate myself. I become a lecturer. And again, relapsed. And I remember the look in my partner's eye. I stole £50 from her purse, and she was a research fellow. She wasn't wealthy. I stole £50, and she just looked at me. And she said, "Why, David? Why again? Why?" I couldn't answer. I couldn't say. Well, the lies had finished. The lies were over. The truth was, I didn't know what was happening. I was broken. The truth was, I was in such a mess. The truth was that everything was built on a lie. And that, a beautiful set of circumstance opened up. Divine intervention, serendipity, I don't care what you call it. I look back on it now and realize that God was doing for me a whole heap of stuff that I didn't even know about. And I made a phone call to a guy that I'd been told he disappeared. And I used to deal with him. The pair of us used to run downers up to Manchester, but he disappeared. And somebody said he was down in Bournemouth, and he wasn't using. They were the magic words. He wasn't using, and I had his number, and I rang him, and his name was Matt, and he said, "You better come down." I gave up the flat, gave up the job. Just walked. I walked. I went. I got the train to Weymouth. Stayed in a dry house in Weymouth, and just followed Matt around for a while. And it was the summer of 2004. And he said, "You need to come to this convention. You need to come to this convention." There was no CA meetings in Weymouth. Bournemouth was a bit iffy. There was a couple of guys shouting about the big book, Colin and Steve, Dave, Johnny. Some amazing men. They were regarded as absolute nutters by the fellowship I was with. Anyway, Matt said, "Come to this CA convention," and I went. And it was in Bournemouth, in a hotel in Bournemouth. And it was just like, when you walk into Primark and you get that static buzz from the clothes, it's like, it was like that. There was an electricity in the air. The room held 200, and the security guy reckoned there were 350 in the hotel that weekend. It was just on fire. And I'd never seen anything like it. It was the closest to the Isle of Wight. And I'm lost, still lost. I still don't know what's happening. I still don't know what I need. I still don't know I'm ill, terminally ill, and this guy, picked up on that. When you see newcomers, they're sat at the back. Nick does this so well. He talks about going, watching them, taking them tea, taking them biscuits. And that's what this guy did. This huge brother with dreads, with enormous man, Leon. He said, come and have a coffee. And he took me into the coffee bar and he bought me a coffee. Didn't know what was happening. He told me a story. That's all he did. He didn't tell me. He didn't ask me questions. He didn't tell me what to do. He wasn't holier than thou. He didn't talk about God. He told me his story. The best he could come up with was trying to commit suicide, and he had some wacky ideas. This man, he knew about suicide. He was an expert on bondage and chains, and was just madman. I loved him. He told me his story. Do you know that moment when you breathe, you hear the truth, you're home, you're safe, you're with friends. You don't have to look over your shoulder. For the first time in 40 years, I didn't have to look over my shoulder. And it was my step one. He gave me step one. He gave me his step one. And I'm there in floods of tears, with snot coming down my face. Just beautiful. He took half an hour out of his day to talk to this lost little white boy. Well, man. And that was it. That was it. What do I do, Leon? What do I do? What do I do next? He said, you follow Matt. You ask Matt to help you. You get a book. You be of service to your home group. You find a home group that you'd walk through the snow for. And it was quite a trek to my home group. I did it, religiously. Followed Matt around like a puppy for 18 months. Did what he suggested. Daily suggestions. It was that sort of group. We had another sort of lineage going to the Pacific group. Don't know about lineage. I'm not really sure what it means. We're all connected to God, I reckon. I'm here because of God, not my sponsor. I mean, I would die for my sponsor. He's just the most amazing man on the planet. But unless I do what he suggests, lineage means nothing. Anyway, this guy was connected to that lineage, and they proved their humanity really quickly. It just exploded in a mess. And and that's when I think I first came across, doing the right thing, going up to London, doing service, meeting dear Jackie. Jackie, I didn't know her. And she became my sister. She became my mother. She became my counsel, my best friend. And she pulled me into service like you wouldn't believe. She said, oh, David, you're doing this at the next convention. And David, you need to do this at area. And just the most beautiful expression of service. And of course, hand in hand with Nicholas. First met Nicholas in Bournemouth. Couldn't believe that this was one of our trustees. I remember he had Elvis Presley cufflinks. I was seriously impressed. I'm seriously impressed still for other reasons. And so I did the deal. I went through the work, came alive, found out the truth, tried to live the truth on a daily basis, came away from that lineage, joined this sort of CA. I mean, we're all doing the same stuff, I hope. It's about getting connected to God, isn't it? and I got connected to God, and I connected other people to God. This guy came to me after a couple of years of sponsorship and said, David, I've fallen in love with a girl from Germany, and I think I need to move over to Frankfurt. Well, I said, oh, George, have you got a job? He said, no. George, can you speak German? No. So I said, well, I think you're mad, but I'll support you. And then almost exactly 10 years later, I'm saying the same thing to my sponsor. Well, I've fallen in love with this girl from Frankfurt. I think I need to move over. Can you speak language? No. Can you have a job? No. And it's like, God made it happen. And no CA here. So we made that happen, with God's help and Nick's help, and Jackie came over, and lots of friends, anonymous friends. Just this fellowship knocks me out with how special it is. And of course, like Nicholas said, it's not been a plain sailing. Habit of dishonesty is so deep in me. I think I'm clever. I think I'm a force to be reckoned with. I think I'm in charge. And if I don't, counteract that on a daily basis, it raises its ugly head again. And 7 years ago now, 6.5 years ago, I got some bad news from a physician, and my first reaction was not to ring Nick. My first reaction was not to tell Claudia. My first reaction was not to go to my group. My first reaction was to go to my GP and get sleeping pills because I knew I'd need them. And within days, I'm back to the madness. Aldi vodka and sleeping pills. And thank God I didn't leave CA. That's all I can say. I didn't leave. You guys, patiently watched what I was up to for a little while. It wasn't too long, and I came back, got on board with Nick, and doing the deal to this day. Still deeper, more truthful, more connected. Still ill, but the program gives me a chance to recover from a hopeless condition. Not cured, remember, not cured, recover. I cope with being terminally ill a day at a time. And it's a gift, I have to say. I feel like it's a gift. Slowed me down, sat me here. It's connected me with the most amazing bunch of boys. I say boys, I think I'm the oldest, apart from Nicholas. The men. And I think I've got it tough. You should listen to some of their stories. Boy, oh boy, are they captains of trials and low spots. CA Germany's growing, not through anything I've done. We just opened the first meeting and did a bit of work. Claudia did all the work. And I'm still here, happy, joyous, and free. More than that, I feel like I'm living my best life. Some days I can't stand up. I can't breathe. Muscle wasting is an issue. And just had a fabulous Christmas. Just the best Christmas ever. With fun and love and warmth. And and I've got 3 boys going through the work. That's what it's all about. It's about helping them connect with God. One of them's on fire. He's making amends, and he's just on fire. One of them may be missing, and that's okay because I'm still here, still ready, still waiting for the phone. It feels like, for the first time in a long time, it feels like my triangle is balanced. The three sides are equal. Even though I'm not running around like, in the beginning, I was just obnoxious, so enthusiastic. I was handing out PI cards to anybody that looked vaguely cross-eyed. I don't know if they were even addicts. I would pass people. I would pass people and think to myself,
It's
thank you. Monica, was that my time? Oh,
5 minutes left.
Yeah, I would pass people in the bus stop and I'd give them a PI card. For God's sake. Oh yeah, there you go. That's my timer too. I was obnoxious. I've done some PI, I've done some H&I. Recently it's changed. I'm doing very different service. I'm doing armchair service. I've just become involved with archives at a world level. That is awesome. There's a little old lady called Veronica who's been to every convention anywhere. She's got Texas sorted. She's got no teeth in her head. And she is the most beautiful expression of CA service I've ever come across. And I sponsor. I keep up with the deal. I don't often talk about, my 10 or what issues I'm having with my sponsor. Don't have a lot of issues. Some days I don't even pick up a resentment. But this man has a knack of steering me onto the straight and narrow with his own experience. I don't even know I'm being guided by this man. He's so experienced. And Unity, just experienced the fantastic piece of Unity at my home group. My triangle feels complete. It looks like it could support the circle. I feel whole for the first time in a long time. And I really think, I may be poorly, but I think the best is yet to come. I really do believe that. So you need never ever use again. If you've got to this room and you're struggling, I believe today that you need never ever use. Just because I relapse means you don't have to. The deal is surrender in completely to this program. I hadn't surrendered completely. I may have been doing a good impression and thought I was cool. There was something that I wasn't surrendering. And today I've surrendered entirely. I live my life. And it's completely down to Cocaine Anonymous, nothing else. I'm not clever. I'm not wise. I'm still full of traits that are objectionable. I try and look at those. That's my clock. I need to stop. I love a lot of people on this group. There's a lot of people I don't know. Pretty much love you too for getting here, getting this far. What a privilege. Thanks for letting me share.
If we could show our appreciation. Thanks, David. That was fantastic.
Thank you very much, David.
Thanks, David.
Thank
Yeah,
you, David.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Lovely. Okay, so I'm not going to bang on. I'm really glad that you made that phone call.